Hi, and welcome to the Diablo podcast. I am your host, Xanth, and my co-host, Nineball, is not here today because he has a job. I am, however, joined by the one and only Fighting Cowboy.
Oh, hello. Good to be here.
And
Talk some Diablo.
in homage to Cowboy, I'm gonna ditch the road and go right to
Sun's out,
TikTok.
guns out, baby.
Let's do it.
Summer,
Uh,
summer. Gotta bring them out. Bring.
it only seems right that we do it this way. Um, and we are brought to you by PureDiablo.com, your home for Diablo, an ever-growing Diablo community, an expansive wiki, and of course, this podcast. So, Cowboy, I'm a huge fan of all of your work. However, I understand there are probably people watching and listening that may not be familiar with who you are. So, who are you?
So I am a variety creator first and foremost. Very much true variety as well. Not like I play Fortnite 90 days a week and then slap a variety in every now and then. Like I do pretty much every major AAA release that comes out, I'm going to cover. I regularly do indie nights where I'll get like 4 or 5 indie games in a group and just plug through them real fast, like half an hour look at this, half an hour look at this. Um, so a very ADD channel because I'm playing a bunch of different stuff. I guess I'm best known for the Souls games. When I started my channel, I always found it annoying that everything is called gameplay walkthrough, just because it fits into the SEO very well, even though none of it is an actual walkthrough. And I'd like get stuck on something and then look up a walkthrough, and it's somebody that's doing it for the first time, and I'm like, this isn't a walkthrough. This is you playing blind. And so I started actually doing that. I started like going through and playing with Souls games in particular, just because of how obscure and difficult they tend to be, and take notes on like where to find all the items, what strategies I would use to approach a zone, approach a boss, and then make like actual walkthroughs to guide people through those. And I think that's probably where my channel got built up the most.
Yeah, I think most of the platinums that I have for any Souls game are courtesy of you, because when I got stuck, go back and watch. I run a lot on the treadmill, so I would also like, Bloodborne was probably the one that I watched the most. I'd be like watch a couple episodes and then go play. Like
It's progress.
now I know where I'm going. Now I know what I'm doing. So thank you for that. I'm sure there are plenty of other people out there that also feel the same. Now, it's not just doing a couple of guides. You're very popular on on YouTube.
Or what, 1.2 at this point? Let me see.
Yeah, million,
Yeah,
million,
yeah.
which is absolutely insane. Uh, as a side note, like when you are going in and streaming, you're putting out content, and you have that kind of a view, like where you know you're going to reach that many people. How do you deal with any sort of nerves or stress around that?
Um, Honestly, I don't really have any. I don't know. I've always just kind of kept doing what I'm doing. I think especially because with being variety, I'm not going to see 1.2 million on everything, and especially being a Let's Play channel. On average, like if I'm episode, for example, I played Dredge recently. It was like an indie fishing game that came out. Really cool concept. Highly recommend it. And on average, I would get, I don't know, 10 to 15,000 views per episode, which is, 0.5% of my sub base. But that's kind of how a channel of that size works. And then I'll do, a Souls game will come out and I'll start seeing the million an episode. But then on an indie game, I won't. And so you kind of come to terms with you never really expect like I'm going to see a massive turnout on everything, just because it's not going to happen. Um, so I've never really felt like those nerves, I guess, just because you're going to get what you're going to get, and I like to try to keep a level head. I know we were talking earlier pre-podcast how like we both had stuff going on with our kids that we had to take care of, and I think that's to me that's the important thing. Is like, yeah, I like doing the channel and playing the games, but at the end of the day, you know family comes first. I still have the day job. It's part-time these days, but I still keep a day job just for the health benefits. um so I think it helps keep you grounded instead of kind of going off the deep end of like, whoa, streamer money and cocaine and strippers, and it's because I do know people that are they've embraced that lifestyle, and I'm 35. I'm too old for that shit already. Like, I'm like, oh
Well,
no, let's just get a cigar, let's get some scotch, and we'll just hang out a little bit. And
I think that's an interesting perspective to kind of hear too, because I think you can look and you can see a big number like that, and then
yeah.
also to realize like no, you kind of need to keep it grounded. Question for one of our mutual contacts, Jen over at Window Central. She asked just like how you're able to put out as much content as you are having two kids.
So a a big part I think is schedule management and time management. So like to be fair, right now I'm on paternity leave, so I don't need to worry about the day job. But when I do have that I've managed to get to where it's full telework and part time. So like I would do the day job from 8 to 1, go to the gym for about an hour, come home, dinner time with the family, maybe a stream before bed. So usually Saturday and Sundays are like my big recording days. Um, so I'll get a bunch of episodes done. If we have like, we're going to the zoo or something, obviously that gets prioritized. But that's usually it, is like I kind of just sacrifice weekends. Another big part right now, at least, is we have our older toddler. He is just starting like preschool, mainly just to get him, all the kids that were born during COVID, they don't have as much social skills as like you or me did growing up, because for a longer time they were away from people. And so it's like it's actually a big thing right now. A lot of the kids that were born right around that 2020 timeframe, they're like slightly behind on language, slightly behind on communication. And so we're like pushing him into I don't want to say it's like a daycare. They basically, he just plays with other kids all day and they talk and do activities and whatnot. So that's giving me a lot of time to record. And while the wife is taking care of the newborn, to be fair, I'm lacking certain facilities to handle the newborn. Um, so that works out. But yeah, it's really tight. And I'm very, very like by like 15-minute increments almost. Like nothing I hate more is when somebody is like, yeah, we're gonna do something at 2. And then it's like 2:15, 2:30. I'm like, sorry, we're not doing it anymore. You've wasted half an hour. I got other shit I got to do. Like I can't. There is no sitting around. Um, so yeah, it's a lot of time management, and I'm a very uh. So like most of my life, I was on like Adderall or Ritalin for ADHD, and I got off all of that stuff mainly because like my resting heart rate was like 110 or something, like way higher than it's supposed to be,
Like,
and I'm like,
like,
maybe this isn't doing good.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, so but I think it's worked out because all the like go 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 that your brain normally has when you have something like that, I've just put it to the channel, and so I actually have like you know, yeah, there's 100 different things going on at once, but to me that feels like normal speed. So
It's
I guess a good way to utilize that extra chaos, or I don't know how to describe it.
no, no, it makes sense to me, and I think it, I definitely agree with that. Like, if we're gonna do something at a certain time, let's go with it. Let's do that.
Yeah,
I hate to waste people's time, right?
so
I'm not worried about mine as much, but other people's. Like today, we're sitting here, we're chatting, and the last thing I want to do is waste your time, right? I don't want to
oh
take
no
away
no,
too
I
much.
mean, and
No, I know I'm not because this
yeah,
is fun. Um,
yeah.
we're gonna have a good chat, but that's always been my mindset of like, let's do this thing. Let's not wait around for.
Yeah.
So speaking of
Speaking
which,
of like, hang on one sec. I have a cat that will not shut.
don't worry, we have an editor, Rush. This is where you can do a little cut because now we'll transition.
Well, now he gets to. This is Jack, and Jack likes to sit outside the door and howl until you let him into the room. And now he's going to probably howl in another 2 minutes because he wants to leave the room. But that's life with a
My
cat.
my wife is she works from home and she's upstairs and our cat will just hang out up there. Has no intention of coming downstairs, which is kind of nice. So as we talk about a transition, let's talk Diablo. That's why we're here, right? Um,
Let's do it.
you said before, predominantly known for the Soulsborne series, for guiding people like me to platinum, which I still brag about. I don't mention that you got me there, but brag about it. Let's talk Diablo though. So what is your history with the Diablo series?
So one of the first PC games I actually got, technically it was the second game I ever owned on PC. was a original Blizzard battle chest, the like Warcraft 2, StarCraft 1, Diablo 1 chest. So played Diablo 1 growing up. Then Diablo 2 came out. Obviously, that consumed a massive, massive amount of hours. Um, Fair amount of like healthy role play. Remember like BattleNet role play back in the day? You'd have like text-based battles with people. Did some of that. Um, Diablo 3 came out, played it at the disaster of a launch that it was. Played it all the way through the update to where like it was actually good, but by that point, I kind of think like the ship had sailed. So I think it has a healthy following still, but there's still a lot of sentiment out there. People are like, oh, Diablo 3 was the worst thing ever, and I'm like, oh, actually, it's kind of it cleaned up pretty well.
Right, right.
And then
Yeah,
of course,
you're right on the split. The two camps, we have a very, ardent following for Diablo 2. And
yeah,
Diablo 3 has it like there are people now who are going into Diablo 4 who've only played Diablo 3. Like they never like they didn't grow up in that time. Um,
yeah.
so there is that strange dichotomy
It
within the
it's
community.
interesting because you see it the Reddit crowd talking about loot is like, your Diablo 3 only people like I played for like an hour and I only had two legendaries and it's like, oh, you know, yeah, you don't want to know what Diablo 2 farming was like.
So I'll play Diablo 2 while I run, and I've been stuck in Nightmare for like 2 weeks, just trying to find gear to proceed to
Yeah.
hell. Um, and I'm okay with that. Like that's still fine to me, but I can definitely understand if you only grew up on Diablo 3, that being more problematic.
It's a different. Well, and Diablo 3 is very it's turbo loot, it's go 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 like, classes are actively ranked lower because your main damage ability you need to stand still to use. Um Whereas Diablo 2, it's a completely different ball game. So it'll be interesting to see where Diablo 4 falls because it does feel like it's to me at least 4 feels like it's going to be a good blend of both games. Um I really like that we're seeing specific skill-based boosts make a return. I like that a lot. But at the same time, I like that we still have a little bit of that faster gameplay that we had in 3. Not quite as turbo; it's still slowed down,
Right.
but it's you know just I don't know. It feels better. It feels more modern. It doesn't have that like awkwardness that 2 sort of still has to it.
There's a fluidity to the
Yeah.
combat, which I think is a great carryover from Diablo 3. So when you were playing in your Diablo history, what class did you gravitate to the most?
Um, it would be a toss up between either Necro or Barb because and you've played a long time, so maybe you can remind me here. For a long, long time, I don't remember if this was like an early Diablo 2 beta thing, but you know how like Bone Prison ended up as just a square around people?
Mhm.
I swear that back in the day, didn't Bone Prison come up and clasp them similar to how Diablo as a boss in 2 does if he gets you with that CC?
So originally, like Bone Wall and stuff, it was just like a straight line. Um, my
Well,
earliest
Bone Prison, I remember it used to be
uh,
like a rib cage that wouldn't close them. And I've always wondered that. I'm like, is that just a fever dream and it was always Diablo's ability and I thought the Necromancer had it, or did the Necromancer used to have that before it turned into just the 4 square bone walls around somebody?
to the best of my knowledge, and Necromancer is not my class by any means. I don't know. That's a good question.
Well,
For anybody,
that's a question, and it's a question for
yeah,
the viewers,
anybody
the
listening,
longtime Necromans.
this is your chance to inform Cowboy here of the history. And actually, this would be perfect. The
History of Bone Prison.
co-host would know, but he's not here. He's got a job, which is just silly. What are you doing? This is where we need you, Nineball. This is where we need you. So Necromancer and Barb. I'm not surprised by the Barbarian. I'm not surprised, given all that I've seen, that you
It's
would
just
gravitate.
it's simple, man. It's a simple smash stuff dies. I always like the variety, especially in D2. I really liked the potential of berserk builds,
Okay.
especially once you start getting into resistance based enemies. Berserk was very much like, don't care, like you're gonna die no matter what, doesn't matter to me. Which was nice because a lot of classes I feel like you'd kind of gravitate into a build, and it's like, oh well, you went too much frost, this guy's frost immune, or you went too much lightning, this guy's lightning immune. And Berserk felt like, I'm going to ignore this mechanic completely and still murder you.
Um, I got burned out on Barbarian. So the original Diablo 2 beta, like open beta, was Barbarian only. So I just played the crap out of that, like 16-year-old me, just as a barbarian, surrounded by other barbarians. And then I just never wanted to go back to the class. Um, just got I overdid it essentially, and I was too enticed by Necromancer and then by Druid when that finally ended up coming out because it was just shapeshift and stuff like that.
I I will say I miss Javazons a lot because even with the like evolution of like the Demon Hunter and the Rogue, there was man something hit different about Javazons. Just the lightning fury and the way you're just like it was a different vibe of that female archer-esque archetype
I think
that I don't think we have really right now.
you hit on something like in Diablo 2, like they created these different archetypes that we just hadn't seen before. Like Necromancer at that time, a pet-based class, completely revolutionary, and then a
Yeah,
Javazon as well. How many characters were we seeing where the emphasis was on throwing things, right? Throwing
yeah.
javelins, creating lightning bolts across the screen. Everybody would expect that from a wizard, would expect to be able to shoot lightning or something to that effect, but to see it on Amazon was pretty awesome. I haven't gone back and made one in a while, but I'm relatively enticed now. Granted, in a week, I probably won't be doing that.
Yeah, yeah. Time is going to change.
Yes. So we were talking a little bit pre-show. You've got a lot of history with Soulsborne and streaming and running that. Not as much with Diablo. Um, what happened?
Well, so and to be fair, I've played Diablo a lot, but with the when Blizzard started kind of shifting. So I mean, I always say I mentioned Blizzard War Chest. I grew up playing Blizzard. They were, you know, as when I first started gaming as a kid, Blizzard was the pinnacle. Blizzard was the best company. Everything Blizzard put out, I loved. I was a huge World of Warcraft fan, played through the expansions, played a ton of StarCraft, played a ton of Warcraft 2, all the mods on Warcraft 3. And then like we started, I don't know, I guess for me it was right a little bit after the beginning of Overwatch. I feel like things started to just kind of shift. And we saw HOTS make this Heroes of the Storm. We saw this shift to like HOTS 2.0, which I was like, this game didn't need loot boxes. It was fine. And then Blizzard's like, actually, we're just canning the whole fucking thing. We'll keep it alive on life support. And it just exists. It still exists. I've been playing it recently while waiting for Diablo. Um, and then there was the whole like taking away prize money from Blitzchung thing, and then all the sexual harassment lawsuits that were coming out. And eventually I hit a point where I was just like, this was right around the time that like after Hardcore Bros had wrapped up, I was like, I'm just not playing Blizzard shit anymore. And so I'd still occasionally play Diablo 3. For a while, Diablo 3 it was like my bedtime game just because you're so turbo in that game. It's a good, as long as you're not playing on hardcore, it's a little dangerous.
Right, right.
But like I could very easily farm myself to sleep in Diablo. But I decided I just wasn't going to cover it. I wasn't going to, support until I saw like a turnaround from Blizzard or a big change. And then the news of the Microsoft acquisition, I was like, all right, well, a lot of the shit we've seen go down, that's obviously Microsoft's not going to play that game. They're going to come in, they're going to clean house, they're going to hopefully get Blizzard back to the name I grew up with, the Blizzard that I remember, loving everything about them, and bring them back up to where they used to be. And that's obviously gone through some rocky sales. I think that's still going to happen more than likely, especially after the recent round of approvals. And then I played the Diablo 4 beta, and I was like, wow, this is actually like really good. And after, like Warcraft 3 was a perfect example. I loved Warcraft 3, the map customizability. And then we saw the Reforged launch, and it was kind of like, fuck is this? Like, what
Right,
are you
right.
doing here? And then it was like Overwatch 2. It's Overwatch, but with a shader swap. And it's like, come on, man. And then Diablo 4 actually came out, and it's like, well, not even out yet, but just the beta. And it's like, holy shit, this is this is like OG Blizzard, like this is actually fucking good. Like what, so it was definitely a bit of a turnaround to be interested in it again. But between the fact that it actually looks, and to be fair, I have heard the latest WoW expansion is like a really nice return to form. I've heard that from quite a few people. Um, MMOs just don't really happen with kids. There's just no time. Uh,
Absolutely, it's like a second job. And I think you echo on something that is super important within, I think, a lot of gaming communities around Blizzard. There are a lot of people who were dissuaded in years past, be it from the Warcraft 3 remaster, like you said, with BlizzChung, the sexual harassment lawsuits, all those kind of things. You're right, like they do impact our viewing of the
yeah,
company, but you hope that things are moving forward, right? That it's not
yeah,
just lip service that gets paid. Um, like you can be excited for the game, but also hope that the behind the scenes isn't as messy as what it had been before.
yeah,
Because yeah, it's hard to support things like that, right? So it is definitely a hope that as they're pushing Diablo 4 out, that things continue to get better and um, they build back that trust, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I had those fears too, obviously, when it came to Diablo, of like what it could be, and all the stuff that had happened. And it's not to say that Diablo's like creation has been perfect so far, but right now it's starting to shape up, right? With a week to go, we're seeing a lot of good things, hearing a lot of good things behind the scenes, and it's easy to be excited again, right?
yeah, yeah. And you want to be. It feels good to be excited about something, and especially I feel like you're in even a more unique position than me here, because at least with variety, it's easy for me to look at one franchise or one publisher developer and just be like, you know what, not playing those games for now. I'm going to work on other things. But like, especially the people like yourself who are ingrained in Diablo, you can't just say, Blizzard, you fucked up. We're not covering Diablo anymore, because you are Diablo. This is what you
Right.
do. Um, so yeah, it's even more of a like, you know, harder just feeling.
Yeah. Well, but to be fair, we were doing this podcast way back during the rough days of Diablo 3.
Yeah.
So I think we can handle whatever's coming our way. I hope. Um, so as we kind of transition into Diablo 4, so you are making a return. What you have a lot, right? You said you're moving into variety. What place do you think Diablo 4 holds for you as you kind of go forward?
Primarily a stream game. I mean, I know for Souls and whatnot, I'm known for build videos, and I think I'll probably dabble in build videos a little bit. But the thing with Diablo, at least with 3, um, and I don't know anything about the 4 end game, but at the end of the day, Diablo is a game about math. I know you think slaying demons, but like, I don't know, it really comes down to that Excel spreadsheet and running numbers. And so, like, I'm sure I'll come up with a couple builds that are fun to level with, but like at the end of the day, you know, Riker, Icy Veins, those guys, they're gonna have tier lists done, figured out. This is the build for Barb, this is the build for Necro, et cetera, et cetera. Um, so I plan on streaming it a bunch because I think it's a great. I don't never think of Diablo as an episodic game. Like a let's play Diablo. There's not enough. No, I don't want to play it for 30 minutes. I want to play it for like 3 or 4 hours. So mainly I'm going to be streaming it, probably a few builds here and there. And then hopefully the big thing people are asking is the return of Hardcore Bros. So hopefully we can coordinate that and get that going again.
Yeah. So explain what is Hardcore Bros?
So Hardcore Bros was me and two of my buddies. Eventually I did it with a different group of friends as well. But the idea was we started on Diablo 1, and then we went to Diablo 2, Diablo 3. And the idea is we were playing on hardcore, and if one person died, back to the start. Just back to the start of that game, thankfully. But really, really interesting because like I obviously have Diablo experience. They did not. Um, I remember my one friend, he hated Diablo 2, and we had made it up to Act 5, and he fell asleep and died. And I was like, I was livid. I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "It's class. I can't do it." And I think he was playing like a, was he playing like a Hammerden or something? He's like, "It's just one button. I just can't do this." And I'm like, "Well, then pick a different class. Like, don't. You're literally almost at the boss." But just a really cool concept, because you're playing with buddies and you're getting heated, and Diablo 3 it got a little spicier because you have like monk dashing and healing people, trying to keep people alive and whatnot. And I had my other friends that had never played, like standing in lava pools and shit. And I'm like, fuck, please, like I'm asking for the bare minimum here, man. Don't stand in the fire. But it's honestly, and it's something I recommend if you got like a couple buddies, uh, especially if some aren't as familiar, because you get four veterans that are all going to play hardcore. You're going to steamroll that shit, obviously. But get something like you, your buddy, and your wife all together, and be like, all right, here's the deal. We're going through hardcore. If anybody dies, we go back to the start and we plow through again. And it's a really fun concept because you're constantly looking out for each other, and uh, a lot of like sharing loot and promoting, like whatever we can do to help each other survive. So it's a really fun thing to do.
So nobody else on this podcast plays him. I am the only one. So if you need a spot, if you need somebody, I'll be one of your hardcore bros.
I mean, we could bump it up to four. It's usually been three, but we could have
I'm
more.
just I'm just saying I've got nothing but time. I'm a teacher and it is summer and I'm ready
Oh, so you're yeah,
to
you're fucking ready. It's prime time for you.
Yeah, this is it could not have lined up any better for me. So I'm just putting it out there, cowboy. You don't have to, but no, I think it's
We
an
would
awesome
have
idea.
to we'd have to pull from some real beginners though, because you said you mostly play hardcore.
I only play hard.
Okay, so yeah, if it's you, and then I have hardcore experience, but I mainly play, like I said, bedtime game. Hardcore and bedtime games don't blend. Um, but with the two of us, I'd have to. I don't know. I got some people that they're pretty bad at Diablo that would probably make it entertaining. So we could probably pull something off.
All right, well, I'm gonna now tell everybody that that's happening, so expect
It's
it.
on the books. It's too late. It's already.
I did. I was watching. I shared pre-show. I was watching it a little bit last night, and it was very enjoyable. Um, it's just a fun concept. Now, here's the better question: do you incorporate alcohol as well for the classic drunk core?
We didn't. To be fair, I know this is ironic because I'm drinking a beer during the podcast, but I don't drink that much. I just came from lunch. I had two beers at lunch. Mentioned pre-podcast. I have like a kid birthday party, so in 2 hours it's going to be screaming kids and Baby Shark for 2 to 3 hours. So a little bit of a buzz is probably expected. Um, but these days I don't. I used to actually do drunk throughs. Like after I would do the playthrough and the walkthroughs of Souls games, I would do this thing called a drunk through where I made a character. His name was Biggest Dickus. He always had a big fucking sword and he used faith spells. And the whole thing was just me doing co-op with fans. Boss died, finish the beer. He died, take a drink. And I would get pretty schwasty. Like there were back in the day, there were streams. We used to do it with shots. Like boss died, you take a shot. Obviously, that did not last long. Because even just finishing a beer, I mean, every time you die, you take a sip, and you finish the boss, you chug the beer. Like it adds up, and ultimately, drinking to that extent when you have kids, and also when you're in your 30s, the hangovers hit different. It used to be like
Yes.
I could go out pounding, get home, two Tylenol, glass of water, sleep fine. Now, man, I drink like I used to, and I wake up and I'm like, I am dead. Call the will. Let me sign away in my house. Like it's so I don't really drink that much anymore. I like a good buzz still, obviously. But it's harder to drink around content with children, honestly, just because like right now, even right now, if my wife's like we got to go, like right now something happened, kid, you're like oh okay. So these days, if I'm like drinking with friends, usually it's the wife's spending the night with her parents over at their house and bringing the kids so they can see Nana and Pop Pop, and I'm like okay, I am responsibilities off the list. I can get a little schwasty if I want. Um, And it's hard to do that with content because I don't want to be like, okay, every Friday you're going to Nana's, Daddy needs to get drunk by himself at home and hang out with friends in Discord. It's so yeah. These days I don't.
Yeah, that is significantly harder with children because you're not on your schedule anymore. You're kind of on theirs. Um, so yeah, I feel like all we're doing is cementing that you're a good dad here, Cowboy.
It's just it's a good impression to leave, right?
Right? There's nothing wrong with that. So as we, kind of talk about plans, you did get a chance to go in and play on the server slam. What was your reaction? I mean, you got to come back. You've played all the
I
other
thought it was
Diablos.
good. There was a lot of like weird angst, I guess I was seeing. Like general sentiment, people were like, "Oh, it feels so nerfed," and I'm like, "Feels good." I got to 20. I had like I think 3 or 4 legendaries on my class. Things were running smooth. Things felt smooth. Honestly, the hardest thing about coming away from Service Sam is I'm even more indecisive on what class I want to play at launch. At first, I was like, I know what I'm doing, and now I'm like, I have no fucking clue. It's just all up in the air again. But yeah, I was Service Sam's got me pretty much like, yes, this is 100% we're on board, but looking good. Let's go. I'm ready for launch.
Um, and out of you said you're kind of indecisive at the moment. Is there a class that you absolutely will not play?
No, I mean over time I'm gonna play all of them.
Well, yeah,
I think
but
it's the standard Diablo experience. But so like initially I was going into it thinking Necro because Necro is my old flame. But one of the big things I'm not are we good to move on full Diablo 4 at this point? Is there
yeah,
anything else
yeah.
we want? Okay.
Um, yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Um, you know how in 3 we can actually command our skellies? I feel like Necro suffers not having that now because a lot of fights, especially against the boss, like I got 2 skeletons fucking off in the corner. The one is over there eating a sandwich, and I'm like, "Hey, yo, 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 come on, everyone attack the boss!" And they're doing their own thing, and that takes away from it. I'm like, it feels weird to be the pet-based class when all of my pets are just dicking around doing whatever they want, and especially your active skelly button just kind of heals them or summons a fresh one. Whereas Druid, which I replayed during Summon Sam, I'm like, oh, I can actually tell my wolves to go over here. I can have and the carrying. Did you play Druid in Summer or Server Slam at all?
So I didn't play Server Slam. I was a little busy. I had an ultra marathon that day, uh, but I did play the 2 other beta weekends, and Druid is like my main. That is the
Well,
class I'm going.
there were some notes about pet buffs. So I made a druid with the intent of let's see what a pet druid's like. And it's fucking good. Like really good. Like carrion, dude. You'd pop the like I could have a crowd, not elites, but just a full crowd of enemies hit the carrion. Everything's rooted and a full health bar is bleeding out. And then so I'm like, oh, okay, this is what a pet class is supposed to feel like. My carrion has AoE. My wolves are jumping and attacking stuff, and I can actually target enemies with it. And it felt good. So then I was kind of leaning towards like, well, if I want a pet class, maybe I do druid. And then besides that, I like Barb, but I know I'm going to play Barb at some point. But the biggest thing for me is I am a PvP player.
Okay.
Looking forward to that. And from a PvP perspective, I don't know. You might know this. So the Barb, since you have 4 different weapon slots, does that equate out to just 4 stat sticks, or do you only get the stat bonus from your active weapon?
No, you get all of them.
Yeah. So I mean, 4 weapons with crit. That's an extra 20% crit. Your Barb's rocking right there. So
Well, in tandem with that, you also get any sort of legendary power that is affixed to those weapons.
yeah.
So you have
So that's
more slots to do more cool things as a bar.
yeah. Which that's a pretty big consideration from a PvP perspective. And then Rogue and Sorceress, obviously, both of those are. Has there ever been a game where the wizard and the rogue are bad at PvP? I don't think so. You
No,
know,
not that I'm aware of. As long as it, I don't have to be a sorceress all the time and do teleport everywhere, I think I'll be okay. It's my
yeah.
least favorite class because of that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and well, that's the thing with sorceress is from a PvP. So first beta test I played sorceress. I actually had a complete blast with it. Was really liking it. I like their class unique about how you take a spell and essentially pick up an elemental augment from it. I really like that concept. That was fun. But even then, on the PvP side, I mean, teleport and Ice Nova are strong, undeniably. Instant movement to wherever I want, and a hard just snap second route. That's big. And then Rogue, obviously, I mean, bad situation, disengage and stealth away. Good situation, open on somebody, stun, and put a bunch of damage into them. So I'm really torn because I know I'm going to be going hard on PvP and getting sweaty, and that's the big toss up for me. Is from a straight like I want to have a fun pet experience. I think Druid's the pick. From a PvP pick, I think there's really strong points to Barb, Rogue, and Sorcery. Whereas Druid and Necro, I don't feel like they'll be as strong in PvP at launch. Just looking at some of the Druid moves, like I like the Lightning a lot. A little bit of a random hit pattern. You don't want randomness in PvP. You want hit connections. Bear and Wolf, it's just I don't know. You're kind of lacking mobility a little bit.
Yeah.
And Necro, you had some blood stuff, but besides that, unless you're good in catching somebody in a bone prison or something with Necro, like I said, your skeletons are fucking off eating a sandwich in the corner, so those aren't going to really help you all that
Right.
much.
You hit on something too. Like there are class mechanics. Like Druid has the Book of the Dead, which I would
Necro's the book of
imagine.
the dead.
Yeah, Necro. There's my brain. To be fair, I've still got a little bit of COVID. Uh, that's why. That's why. Uh, I don't make mistakes. It's fine.
Brain
Uh,
fog. It's okay.
yeah, that's it. But with the Book of the Dead, we might find later on that the minions are a little bit more adaptable or a little bit
Yeah.
smarter. I don't I don't really know. Uh, I think the PvP aspect is interesting to kind of think of because kind of like equating it to souls. What's the level that people are going to PvP at? What is that target?
Max. I'd assume max.
Think of old school Diablo 2. There were a lot of people who like to deck out their character right away at when was it earliest you could duel level 9,
Yeah,
right?
1920s, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would just hang out right outside of town. Um,
I mean,
it'll
I
be
think there's going to
interesting.
be there's going to be a lot of that, but obviously, I think end game is going to be, which I am interested to see the return because I remember Diablo 2 PvP being quite fun. I remember 3 being a veritable shit show. I haven't touched Immortal, but I heard it was also basically a shit show. Um, I hope it's. I mean, from what they've shown, the like open world roaming and killing people, mm,
The first for
sounds
the
like the perfect Diablo pasta right there.
well, and for the first time in 20 years, when you kill somebody, you will get their ear again, which is the ultimate trophy.
I mean, I was more a fan of killing them and taking all their shit, but that's a
I mean, that is cool too. I don't think that's gonna be possible, but
yeah.
to at least get their ear will be pretty sweet. Um, I'm again going all hardcore. I'm going to be avoiding PvP as best I can.
Yeah, no, hardcore and PvP are for the sweatiest of sweat lords. Mixing those two things together, it's not usually a combo you want.
Yeah, I'm very little intention on that. So you mentioned with D4, predominantly doing more of a let's play. There were questions kind of around build guides. Like you did mention you want to put together build guides and stuff like that. Planning, goes into the creation of the build guide and then like putting it all together.
So typically the first thing, of course, is just an idea. What do I want to do? And that extends beyond class. So like if it's doing a let's just use Necro or you said are you maining Druid or Necro? What do you think you're
I'm
going to be
going
maining?
100% Druid. Like I've been
Okay.
Druid since the
So
first day I saw it.
perfect. With Druid, we have our 4 archetypes already. You have like your nature, you have your stone, you have your bear, and then you have your lichen. And so, you know, first you want to have an idea. What's the basis of this build? Am I making a bear druid? Do I want to do a summoner druid? Do I want to do an elementalist type druid? And then once you do that, it's looking at all the different legendaries and, where are my best synergies? What is going to, work the most potential? Is there a specific move that I know I like this the most? I want this to be my spender, and then you pick that slot and then you build out around that? Or is there a general theme that you want to stick around? Because a good example is like, you could have a whole build in Elden Ring where you have one weapon. For example, God-slaying blade. You pick that up and you say, I want to make a God-slaying character. He's going to use God-slaying blade. Okay, well, what else is going to synergize with that? And then you have your basis and you expand out. Or it could be the reverse. You could say, well, I want a Godskin character. He's going to use the black flame and the stuff. What are the weapons for consideration that would work with this caster build? Godslaying blade has a pretty high strength and dex requirement. Maybe you want something that's lighter weight and go more of a cast emphasis. But so that's the big thing for me with builds is kind of getting an idea. Now with Diablo 3 and by extension Diablo 4, I think we've seen a shift where you have an idea of what your build is, and then you get a legendary that's like quadruple your bone spears, and you're like, okay, change of plans. We are now a bone spear build. So that it's harder to really settle upon a build while leveling, I think, because it's going to be dictated by one, what legendaries you're finding, because those effects are generally too monumental to pass up, like way too significant in terms of like kill speed and density and all that, and how much you're clearing. And the other thing is, until your end game and you can really, start on the grind and figuring out what you want, it's to an extent you got to work with what you get. I think that's the name of the game in Diablo. You don't know you're going to get a specific item, and so you need to be ready to adapt. But yeah, once your end game, that's where I'm going to come up with an idea and roll with it. And I think I did this a bit with Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter, very similar to the Diablo in the sense that mathematically speaking, there are builds that are the most optimal, that are going to push the highest tiers of content the fastest. They're not necessarily always the most fun. And so I think that's where I'm going to more focus my build guide content on, is like, I wanted to have a druid build that was all about, me using the pets, but with a strong elemental focus. So like while I'm calling down lightning, my pets are going out and attacking everything. Sounds like a really fun build from a conceptual level. And so that's the kind of stuff I want to do build guides around, I think.
Yes. Like to use an Elden Ring build guide as an example, like when you're putting one together, like how much time does that take you?
Um, I think a big part of it, so that there's a certain time commitment that's kind of incalculable, and it's just the amount of, well, it's the part of the game, because there's
Right.
the more you play the game, the more you have, especially with something like Diablo, knowledge of all the different legendaries, the innate knowledge of what each different passive does, as all that becomes just knowledge that you have, innate knowledge, and immediately in the back of your head different things. It makes things significantly easier. At that point, you can say, all right, we're sketching out a build that's going to do XYZ, and you already know what pieces you're going to pull into it. And it's the same thing with Elden Ring. Like if with Elden Ring, if I was going to make, say, a strength faith build, I already know a lot of the strength faith weapons. So I'm going to go to my box, I'm going to yank those weapons out. I'm going to usually respec for the stats I want to hit for that build, and then I'm going to test those weapons. I'm going to look, all right, what are my R1 swings? What are my R2s? What are my rollings? Do one of these weapons have a unique attack that the other one doesn't have, even though they're both great swords? Sometimes the great sword is a step and poke, sometimes it's a step and swing. And then once you find oh, I like this. This move set feels good. This feels different from something I've done before, so it's going to feel fresh. That's kind of what you start rolling with. But to actually like put something together and get it up and running, I'd say you could do that in 3 to 5 hours. Really, one stream, 1 to 2 streams. If you're averaging 3 hours a stream, I would say. But the hard part is just the preparation knowledge, I guess, is the best way to describe it.
Makes sense. Um, so a question off of Twitter from Diablo 4 News and Updates. What skill and aspect combo have you enjoyed the most so far in Diablo 4?
Now,
I,
aspects being
so like the legendary aspects, like the
okay,
so
okay.
your whatever skill
Um,
and then like the fancy
yeah,
legendary
yeah, yeah.
power that makes it better.
So I'm gonna choose based on beta. The first beta I got the Hydra legendary. That was so much fun. I love Hydras. I actually never played the Hydra build in 3, even though I've heard it's
Okay.
actually pretty solid now. But that was good. But I'd say the one that stood out to me the most, I got a poison trap aspect for Rogue, where when I was in stealth, I could put down multiple poison traps, and then upon exiting stealth, they would detonate. And up until that point, Rogue was just kind of an okayish class for me, and I wasn't really vibing with it that much. And then I got that, and it was like I would stealth, and I'd be like boom, 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 and then open on something, and the whole screen is just covered in poison. Everything is melting, and I was like, wow, this is fun. This is so. I would probably give it to I would give it to that one. I think that was the one that it felt way more dynamic. Because some of the ones I got, like the Necro, where it's like your blood nova goes off twice. Like, hooray!
That doesn't
but
change too much, but yeah.
yeah, but you going stealth and putting down 4 different traps that are going to all detonate simultaneously. That's a fun change. It's a very dynamic change and shift in how the class plays.
No, absolutely. And when you find those build altering kind of items, it is exciting, especially on your first playthrough. Uh,
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I mean, how blind are you going to go in next week?
I
Because
mean, absolutely. Like fully, aside from what I've experienced in the betas, fully blind, not looking up guides, nothing, just playing through the game. When I'm off stream, playing through the game. When I'm on stream, playing, just playing through the game.
I do have a massive respect for like in your walkthroughs, and it's for a player of your caliber, it is fun. I was watching the Dark Souls 3 Nameless King fight, and you died, I think, 2 times during it. And it would have been so easy to like edit that out and like make it, but no, you left it in. And I think that's awesome. Like I think it's
I
awesome to
think,
see like, hey,
yeah.
yeah, you're not always going to be perfect.
But I think that's important too, because I think when well, one in a let's play, like if I'm dying for like an hour, eventually I'll edit out deaths and I'll just tell people I'll be like, all right, I've been at this an hour and a half, y'all. Hopefully this is the last attempt, and then finally get it, and I'm like, thank fuck, this is done. Because I don't. There's no point in an hour and a half video of just deaths. Um, but I think the big thing for the walkthroughs is like, especially when you're trying to teach people, I think you need to teach them that it's okay to fail. No one wants to watch a guide. Here's how to kill the boss. Watch me do it flawlessly. You should be able to do this too. If you can't, you suck. That's not helpful. You know, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna make mistakes. Not everything is always gonna be a perfect run. I think it's okay for people to realize that.
And it's also super helpful to see the best way to get back to the boss. Uh, like, oh,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's educational.
right. So I definitely do appreciate that. I think that it's much more fun to see something real as opposed to super manufactured. Um, and where can we find you? For anybody listening
Um,
who wants to go and be a part of your
just
journey through Diablo 4.
these days, I'm pretty much just on YouTube. So just fighting cowboy. Um, Pretty hard to miss. There's not a lot of fighting cowboys out there these days.
And you stream exclusively on YouTube, correct?
I do. I moved from Twitch about 3 years ago now. Don't miss it though. I'm streaming. YouTube streaming is honestly unreal right now. I'm stream so get this. I'm using they just updated to like where you can use the AV1 codec. So I currently put out 1440 stream that looks as good as 4K pretty much, and I'm
Hmm.
using an 8 megabyte bitrate.
Hmm. Okay.
Which before that I was putting out 18 and
Okay.
still doing 1440, which was just it looked great before, but the fact that I was able to more than have my bit rate and get the same potentially better quality, I'm like, I love it. Which nothing
Nice.
against Twitch, but just being able to do 1440 4K streams, and the fact that I'm primarily a VOD person, so not having to export a bunch of streams over ends up being really nice. Because like if I
Right.
do make Diablo guides, I can have one playlist that's you know build, or stream. Here's the build video. Stream. Here's the build video. So people can get to see the process behind making stuff as well.
And I will say it is super easy to go and search through your channel for exactly what you're looking for,
Yeah.
having had to do that before. So I could definitely see the nicety of being on that particular platform. Um, so as we kind of get to the end here, what are your last thoughts about Diablo 4 and Diablo in general?
Um, I'm just excited to see like a return to form of what looks like it's going to be a really solid game. I'm excited to see PvP return in what looks to be more than just a, brawl fest that we had in 3. Um, More than anything, I think I'm just excited to just lay in bed and play more Diablo because it's, like I said, it's been my bedtime game for a while, but there's only so many times before it's build roulette. Like, okay, what class and build am I running this time? And you've done it all. So it's just, I'm excited for just something that's fresh, really.
It is exciting. I mean, we get a new Diablo game like once a decade.
Yeah.
Um, to like go
Yeah.
in completely fresh with no knowledge and just experience it. Because the game's going to be figured out within 2, 3 weeks. But
Yeah.
for those
Yeah.
first couple weeks, it's going to be real
Yeah.
exciting and it's going to continue.
That golden period, and then eventually DLC and new characters and
Right. Well, we do know, so there is the first season will launch mid-July, and that will include some sort of new experience, some sort of addition,
yeah,
with a seasonal theme, and then we should be getting seasons every 3 months after that. So
yeah. Do you have any theories on the first class you think they'll add?
my running theory is it will be um, a mix of a paladin
Yeah.
slash Amazon. We need a holy class.
Oh, okay.
So I think it'll hit a lot of these molds. Um, and what I have said before in previous podcasts is I think within a year we will see it.
Yeah, I think it'll be the fusion sounds cool. I figured for sure there's going to be some type of holy class. I think some paladin crusader. I don't know if they might go more of like a priest archetype, move away from the combat, but there's an obvious need for a holy class, and there's not one at the moment. So
Correct. It's we didn't have it in we had it kind of in the monk in Diablo 3, but then we got the Crusader as the expansion
yeah,
character. Um, it's a niche that appeals to a lot of people.
yeah.
That does
I mean
feel
the holy
majorly lacking.
crusade against demons. It's kind of the
Right. It
yeah,
it does seem kind of odd not to have, but I do expect it to be out within a year because after a year, I feel like that's when you want to draw more people back in. Here's
yeah.
our new class. Here's the one that you've been really looking forward to, that we missed, and then we come
I wouldn't
back
mind.
and
I think like like an assassin Javazon type fusion. That could be kind of cool. Or like maybe like a huntress. Like she uses traps and a javelin, kind of jungle themed or something. I don't know. That
I'm
could be a neat
as,
one.
as long as I keep adding to it, that's all I really care about.
Yeah.
Mainly because I have the class I want to play. I didn't get a druid in 3, so as long as I've got it in 4, I'm going to be totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah. It's week away.
I know it is a week away, so I'm very excited, and I'm excited to see what you put out as well. June 1st, we'll tune in on YouTube to Fighting Cowboy. Um,
Before we know it, man.
I,
It's
I
crazy to think it's that close.
So by the time I assume Rush will probably put this out in a day or two. So by the time people are listening, it'll be even closer. It'll be even
Yeah.
closer. So that is awesome. Uh, I think the only thing left to do is close it out as we always do with a moo, moo, moo.
Oh.